Okay, let's dive in. Yeah. Welcome everyone. Today we're looking at just one specific source, an excerpt from an old Materia Medica, and it's all about a substance called anilinum. Think of it like a historical snapshot. Our goal here is really just to unpack what this particular text tells us, what they understood this chemical did back then. So straight off, the source calls anilinum a coal tar product amidobenzene. Okay. And then it jumps right into some pretty striking effects. It says, marked giddiness and pain in head, face has a purple hue. Purple face. That's incredibly specific, a bit unsettling maybe. What are we actually reading here with this kind of source?
Yeah, that purple face definitely catches your eye, doesn't
Oh.
it? It's interesting. You have to remember what a historical materia medica is. It's not like a modern toxicology report. These were compilations, collections of observations, really. Symptoms they saw maybe after accidents or sometimes from intentional tests they called provings or just clinical use. The idea was just to list all the effects they connected to a substance. So coal tar product medobenzene, that's the identification. And then boom, right into the effects they noted, like that purple face. And yeah, for today, we're really just sticking to what this source says about it.
Okay, right. So focusing on the head and face first. That giddiness, the pain, the purple hue. Are there other effects listed around that area? Because that purple color, it makes you wonder about something systemic, right? Like blood or maybe oxygen levels.
It does sort of point towards something impacting circulation or maybe oxygen transport, yeah. Which is interesting, especially when you see the other symptoms. But moving beyond the head, the source also lists some, well, very distinct localized effects. Things like pain in penis and scrotum with swelling.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we go from headache and a purple face straight to that. Localized pain and swelling in a totally different area. That seems like quite a leap.
It is a bit of a jump, isn't it? And I think that highlights how these texts often just, listed observations. They weren't always trying to connect everything with one single underlying reason, but it doesn't stop there. The source also brings up something much more serious sounding. Tumors of the urinary passages.
Tumors? Really? That feels like a completely different kind of thing compared to like acute pain or your skin changing color. How would they even link something like a purple face or, swelling down there to tumors?
Well, that's a really key question when you look at these old sources. It could be reflecting maybe chronic effects they saw after long exposure. Or perhaps it was associations they made from seeing certain clinical cases. The source itself doesn't really explain the why. It just notes the connection was made, or at least suspected. And it keeps going with other systemic problems too. It mentions profound anemia.
Ah, anemia.
Yeah, profound anemia with discoloration of skin, blue lips, anorexia, gastric disturbances, and it also just adds swelling of skin generally.
Okay, so profound anemia, blue lips. That does seem to loop back to that idea of oxygen or circulation issues we were wondering about with the purple face. So you've got this whole range. Specific pains, swellings, potentially really serious stuff like tumors, and then these big systemic blood and digestive issues. That's an incredibly wide spectrum of effects for just one substance in this text.
It really is a broad list. And the source also gives us a little clue about how they tried to categorize anilinum, maybe how they thought about it relative to other things. It suggests comparing it. It says compare anilinum to arsenic and antipyrin.
Arsenic. Well, everyone knows that's highly toxic. And antipyrin, wasn't that another coal tar thing used for fever, pain, something like that? Why those two, do you think? What's the link?
Just looking at the symptoms listed here for anilinum. Well, arsenic poisoning historically has a reputation for causing really severe systemic problems, blood disorders, skin issues. So you'd see some overlap in the description there. And antipyrin, yeah, another coal tar derivative. Maybe the comparison was because of similar acute effects they saw, or maybe toxicity, or perhaps even how they thought they worked, even if they didn't spell it out. These comparisons were likely tools for the reader of the Materia Medica, ways to kind of cross-reference based on the overall symptom picture.
Right, okay. So let's sort of recap what we've pulled from this specific historical source. We have anilinum, identified as a coal tar product, amidobenzene. This text connects it to acute head symptoms that mark giddiness, the purple face. Also localized pain and swelling, specifically mentioning the penis and scrotum. Then there's that serious mention of potential tumors of the urinary passages and these major systemic issues. Profound anemia, skin discoloration, blue lips, appetite loss, stomach problems. Plus, it throws in comparisons to arsenic and antipyrin. So, why is digging into a source like this interesting for you listening? Well, it really gives us this fascinating glimpse, doesn't it, into how substances were being described and understood medically at a particular time. It's based purely on observed effects, creating this very specific, sometimes really quite strange list. What part of this description stands out most to you?
Yeah. And it makes you think, considering this really diverse, pretty intense list of symptoms for anilinum in just this one source. Everything from a purple face and headaches to swelling down there, severe anemia, even tumors. What does this specific collection of symptoms tell us about the methods, maybe even the assumptions they were using back then to connect the chemical exposure to all these different physical effects?